So, of course, to continue to chant the glories of Srila Prabhupada is an endless task. You can start today with one quality of Srila Prabhupada, which is the most dominant one in his preaching, and this is a quality we can follow. There's qualities we can admire, but we shouldn't imitate. Imitation anyway, Prabhupada said, is not good. Following is good. Imitation means that we know what it is, but we assumed that we are already there. Like I heard, there was a few days ago a gentleman here, he revealed the secret that actually he knows, and he got the realization who he really is in the spiritual world. So he's already practically there. And he came to visit us. Just, of course, if I would be here present, I would ask him immediately to leave and go to the spiritual world and never come back. You know, since he's there already, then why is he coming here? It's a simple question. What are you doing here? Prabhupada said, if devotees would really go to Vrindavan and visit the holy Dham, really, not just buy a ticket and land in Delhi, Prabhupada they will never come back. The reason we come back is, there's only two reasons: to continue to preach, or we were never there. So, you know, it's as simple as that. So Prabhupada, his most dominant quality, which can be followed, not copied, is his absolute chastity to Vedic scriptures, to Krishna's words. Absolute chastity means there is nothing what could actually inspire him to change something or adjust something for the sake of momentarily benefit, to become popular, to become famous, to get some money, name, fame and glory. There was nothing what could stop him. I just heard, you know, one of the earliest lectures ever recorded from Srila Prabhupada. That was at the time there was no ISKCON and there was no big followership. There was nothing. Prabhupada was, you know, alone, sitting in the yoga studio of a Mayavadi guru, who was a friendly man, who was, you know, but nevertheless classical Indian Mayavada thing, and his audience was obviously not hippies. It was middle class ladies, you know, well-to-do, a little bit financially secured. That was the public this yogis and gurus addressed, because that's where you get the money. You don't get any money from the hippies, obviously. So he gave a lecture, long lectures. His first lectures, early lectures, are very long because he didn't have the practice in the West how much these people can take. So he's practically giving, he's not giving 45 minutes lectures, as usually. He is giving, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and going from one subject of Bhagavad Gita, summary of Bhagavad Gita, introduction, then he goes chapter by chapter, really illustrating. It's also immense, wonderfully, the whole Bhagavad Gita is right away there. And of course he gets interrupted, which normally is not the etiquette, in the class. Not aggressively, just stupidly, But I noticed already there, and there was no ISKCON, there was no big movement, nothing. Prabhupada was absolutely determined not to change one thing. Like in one of the first recorded lectures, he mentions, yes, in the Shastra, women are less intelligent. And, to say such a thing in America at that time, that's already very challenging. You cannot expect to get much big round of applause for that, So anyway, and this lady, in the midst of the lecture, suddenly just starts to ask some question, typical esoteric thing, because Prabhupada speaks about the holy Dham, and she is immediately asking if there is a higher level of magnetism there, energy, The energy, really, the energy. And Prabhupada says, yes, yes, Vrindavan has such a strong magnetism. It draws me back all the time. But then Prabhupada said, no, but I was ordered to come here to explain to you. You could translate this, I'm very drawn back to Vrindavan when I listen to such a stupidity. But because my spiritual master told me to try at least to inform such an idiot like you. Of course Prabhupada didn't say that, but it was kind of a hopeless task, And the lady is kind of cools down. And she's satisfied that in Vrindavan there is a higher level of magnetism, So Prabhupada doesn't bother with explaining anything, because these people are so hopeless. They just listen, but Prabhupada keeps on preaching. Why? First of all, the scripture says, and second of all, he is under the order of a spiritual master. And that makes the surroundings pretty irrelevant. Therefore Prabhupada actually used to preach while sitting alone in a room against a wall, recording. Even there was nobody there, he preached. Because the spiritual master told him to do so. Therefore it's so essential to have this understanding, then you cannot be stopped by anything. Because you are under instruction, you will do. It's like a soldier in a war, he's under instruction. It doesn't matter if it's a victory or defeat, he has to try to maintain his position and simplify the enemy. Because he's under instruction. That's all. It's like police. I think American police is this wonderful, wow, we should have this in a point of initiation. What is it? I don't know exactly the wording, but there is including a phrase where I swear herewith to protect the American Constitution against enemies, both domestic and international. It means those who come from outside and those who come from inside. Because the Constitution is there. So this spirit Prabhupada manifested. I will defend the Shastra both from the attacks, from inside and outside. The inside wasn't there yet, it was not ISKCON. That came later. And from outside, sure. That was all these people who never heard one word about Krishna, but were very eager immediately to oppose and argue. It's Kali Yuga. Before even the discussion starts, the argument arose. If you would take a physiognomy of a Kali Yuga man, it's just two big feet who stamp around and the mouth. There's nothing more to it. They don't teach it in a school like in biology, like this, But basically, essentially, in Kali Yuga, everybody is just big mouth. When it gets female, it gets higher. When it gets male, it gets lower. And 2 feet. No brain, no eyes, no ears to hear, nothing. Now, of course, such a creature is, people don't like to see things like that. But from the behavior of the Kali Yuga people, we can say it is like that, Just, Prabhupada compared it with frogs. Frogs is also this big mouth, and just blah, 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 blah. Prabhupada always imitate the sound. So, and then, when a certain point comes the snake and eats the frog, in the middle of the speech, the death coming, it's quiet. And the other frogs don't care. They just keep on going, blah, 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 and then next one goes. This is basically what's happening all the time around us. Somebody comes, and history books are full of this picture of these funny people who were once upon a time walking in these royal palaces and saying all these important things and doing these kind of important things, but what? Just a name remained. And then what? Prabhupada used to say, where is Napoleon? Where is Hitler? Where is everybody? Just a memory at best. And people forget very fast. Then immediately another frog comes and goes, ma, 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 and then finished. So I remember in Russia there was a time they couldn't as fast buried the leaders as they were speaking. You know, like within half a year they got 3 leaders who died so fast because it's all communists, you know, before they make it through this whole career mechanism and came to the top, they were already like, 90 years old or whatever, and then they gave the speech about the victory against imperialism and they died the next day. Then they were looking for another one, and because it was very selective, it was a very small group, they selected the candidates from. So then another, dying man came up and he gave a speech, and he was gone. I know there was a time, they said, okay, it's enough of this. We cannot even bury these people as fast as they are speaking. So then Gorbachev came. He was like very young in comparison to others, very revolutionary. It was a total revolution. Where is he coming from? And then came the other ones, and now they are more careful. The career people are getting younger. But everybody's dying sooner or later. So Prabhupada's message was timeless, not affected by death. But Prabhupada made it clear from the beginning, I'm an old man, I will die soon. And we were thinking, oh, he's so humble, and nobody wanted to see it. But this quality, to be chaste to the words of the Shastra, this is something we should never change, we should follow, and we should always strive. Anything what we speak should be based on that. Where is this? And you have a completely legitimate right. If anybody speaks to you, anybody speaks out anything, ask him, where did you got that from? In our movement in ISKCON, you can say, okay, where did Prabhupada say this? As one of my wonderful godbrothers said, there's no even new problems. The problems are basically the same. That means that there is no problem we have to address without quoting Prabhupada, because he already spoke about this when he was around, and it's not like we have now 2013 and there's a completely new problem. No. Essentially the problem is the same, and Prabhupada already commented upon it. So why not just quote Prabhupada? Prabhupada is timeless. Okay, we don't have the hippies maybe, then it's called differently, but the mentality is the same. And the problems are the same. Basically boil down to the impudence, obstinacy and impudence against any sort of spiritual autonomy. This is the unifying element, of all the conditioned souls around us. As Mr. Frank Sinatra was singing, I did it my way, very popular song. Because everybody was going, yeah, look at him. Such a nice guy, such a gangster, and very nice. He did it his way. Then he died, of course, too. So, so everybody has this idea, I do it my way. They don't even know what is my way. Because they don't even know who is me. First of all, you have to know who you are, then you can say this is my way. They don't even know who you are. You ask them, who is you? Tell me, who is you? Well, I'm Danish. Well, that can be changed. That means you died. You can burn your Danish passport and you are dead. Simple preaching, and you have to stay on that point. That's another thing we can learn from Prabhupada. You don't move on in your preaching unless the basic point is understood. You don't go further. It's violence towards the others to go further. It's like violence to a child which is the first year in a school to teach him something about arithmetics or geometry. He will get confused. What is this? No. I remember we had a teacher in the beginning. That lady was like a gizmo. She was almost non-human. She had these cards and she was teaching us mathematics. And on these big cards, I just remember the cards. I never forgot, 60 years almost, I didn't forget these cards, There was 1 apple and 2 apples. And then she was going, 1 apple and 2 apples is 3 apples, and then she had perons, and she had bananas, she had a whole fruit shop like this, with these cards. And she was always putting the cards together and we had to repeat. That's how we learn mathematics. So, and she did it so long that we were just going, no more apples, no more banana, help! Because, and she started again, and 1 apple and 2 apples is 3 apples. And you're like, oh, you're so tired of this. You know. But that's preaching is the same. You don't go beyond the basic understanding, which is as wonderful and profound and transcendental as the advanced level. There's no difference. Krishna consciousness is not like, oh yeah, that's the beginners. It's like another arrogant gentleman passed by here and he's just looked. And he was invited to join the lecture and he said, just for beginners. And he walked out again. Doing what? So in your mind you can imagine anything. You can imagine you just came from Goloka Vrindavan. And you can imagine, but actually you are sitting in some pit hole in Copenhagen and trying to survive by some mediocre means, and that's it. That's it. And regarding your senses, regarding your false ego, regarding these things which should be addressed and dealt with, that's just a mind detail. Where my senses go, where my mind goes, where my false ego goes, just a minor thing. And usually it ends up, the only one who can listen to your speeches is actually the opposite sex. That's the only thing you end up with. Because, women, sorry, but very often they don't hear. They smell, look, and taste. So as you speak, they just... I had once a theory that the reason why a dog can sit in front of you and look so absolutely faithful, and he's fascinated and staring in your face, it's not just because he's very chaste, but he thinks, my God, he has such a nice fleshy nose. How would that taste like? So it's like you try to preach to a dog, my dear dog, you have to understand we are not this body, and he goes, how does his nose taste like? And he's completely fascinated. You say, oh look, he's listening so nicely. No, he just thinks how to eat your nose. So this is preaching to people who are entirely on a sensual platform, You just, and they just go, yeah, very good. Krishna consciousness is so nice. And all the time they think, how can I get under your skin? How can I come close and close and close? And by the time the preacher is finished, he is so lusty and, and the whole thing is finished. So, and she's pregnant or whatever. That's the end of the lecture. So, so this kind of, preaching is useless. So Prabhupada, it's another lesson we can learn from him. You don't go away from the basic things. We are not this body. Yeah, I know this. Yeah, but I thought you are thinking. That's also the body. What do you mean? Oh no, you get puffed up and angry. That's also the body. I know I am not this body. Now you get angry, you see. That's the body. So such a preaching is unless he doesn't get the point, there's no need to go further. No Krishna, no gopis, nothing. Prabhupada even said to such a fool, he said, we don't talk here about God. The man was shocked. What? No God? No. Is life coming from life or from matter? Basic principle. No God. Think. Is life coming from life or from matter? It sounds, like devoid of any God consciousness. Biological principles. And then they go, well, life comes from life. Okay. So you came from life, not by accidentally collected matter. Yeah, life. So, as you enabled to act as living being by another living being, and that living being was enabled to act by another living being, and that living being was enabled to act by another living being, then who was the first living being? In other words, who is the highest living being? Oh, there is nobody. It started. Come on, let's go back and think. Logic, no belief. I don't believe this. Who said that? No, believe. Think rationally. Is 1 and 1 2 or 5? No, 1 and 1 is 2. So, do you come from life or from matter? You just said you come from life.
Yeah.
So where is the supreme life? Where did the life start? Who enabled this whole thing? It's obviously not accidental. So who started it? Oh, it came from a big bang. What a scientific statement. Big bang. I will bang you on the head. You know, a big bang. And then you will be totally illuminated, full of knowledge. I will smack you, there will be a big bang, and then everything falls into place. And you will be completely harmoniously tuned into the creation. Because everything started with Big Bang, you said. So somebody just smacked it all, and then all this variety of life came, and all this wonderful order, and this. Let's try it out. Come on, come. Stand straight and say, it was all accidental. Boom! And he goes, oh, why did you hit me? Well, it's all accidental. But accidentally my arm swung like this and bang, landed in your face. You cannot do that. No, I didn't do it. It's all accidental. It's just, and then he look, and completely accidental, another arm comes flying. Slap. I'm quoting Prabhupada. He said, as soon as I said, kick him. You kicked me. He said, no, it's all accidental. Why should I don't know why, but it just happened, I felt an urge, certainly, to kick you, but it's also accidental. It's all accidental. Look, here comes another kick. Prabhupada was very firm on this point. So, this is where we should stay with our preaching. Just basic. Don't move. If you preach your whole life on this level, completely fine. It's perfect. Not this lifting off. Kali Yuga is an old age where people just, they are unfortunately educated in an academic sense. Previously people were more practice oriented. You have to work to get your food, obviously. Now people don't work to get the food. Not in a direct sense. They work to get the money to buy the food. And that creates this illusion that everything comes from money. No. Everything comes, food, when you stay with food, it comes from earth. And that earth, you have to work, you have to dig and plant, and then the food comes. And that makes you aware, people were like this. And so for all this, they were craftsmen's people. In order to work the earth, you need animals, you need tools, and you have to create everything, make it, and then go bam, bam, bam. Now people don't make actually anything. There's very few people really producing something. Especially today, it's all made in China, and then consumed by the Westerners. And they just do all kinds of jobs, which pushing numbers around and working, operating gizmos, which are of a very questionable nature. Everything is very, very intense and complicated, but nobody knows even where the food comes from. Nobody knows. You put people in a situation, so now, here, there's a piece of earth, eat. They go, but I cannot eat earth. Well, who said you should eat earth? You should grow something and then eat what the earth is producing. How do you do that? I'm not growing any food. I'm going to Rema. I'm going to the shopping center and I buy the food. Food comes from a shopping center. This is such an illusory, artificial life.